Throughout this series, we've examined family stories, frontier populations, census classifications, and the historical circumstances that contributed to Native American ancestry traditions throughout Appalachia. Now we arrive at one of the most debated subjects in modern genealogy: DNA testing. Many people hope DNA testing will provide simple answers about family stories and native ancestry claims. Sometimes it does, sometimes it raises more questions than answers. In this presentation, we'll explore what DNA can tell us, what it cannot tell us, and why family stories and DNA results sometimes appear to conflict. The introduction of consumer DNA testing transformed genealogy. For the first time, researchers could compare genetic evidence with documentary records and oral traditions. DNA opened doors that previous generations of genealogists never imagined. However, DNA did not replace traditional genealogy. Instead, it became another source of evidence. The strongest genealogical conclusions come from combining DNA, historical records, and family history rather than relying on any single source. One of the most common misunderstandings involves ethnicity estimates. Many people view these percentages as precise measurements. They are not. Ethnicity estimates are statistical predictions based upon reference populations chosen by each testing company. Different companies use different databases and different algorithms. That is why one company may report native ancestry while another does not. The estimates are useful tools, but they should never be treated as absolute proof of ancestry. Many researchers become confused when their results differ between companies. The reason is simple. Each company builds its ethnicity estimates differently. Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, MyHeritage, Family Tree DNA, and other testing companies use different reference populations and different methods. As those databases improve, ethnicity estimates often change over time. This does not mean your DNA changed. It means the interpretation changed. Perhaps the most important concept in native ancestry research is understanding that DNA inheritance is random. Every generation receives approximately half of its DNA from each parent, but not every ancestral segment survives indefinitely. As generations pass, some inherited segments become smaller and smaller. Eventually, certain segments disappear entirely from a descendant's DNA. This means a documented native ancestor may exist even when modern descendants show little or no detectable native DNA. Many people imagine DNA inheritance as a perfect transmission of ancestry. In reality, we inherit segments of chromosomes. Those segments are shuffled every generation through a process called recombination. Some ancestral lines contribute large amounts of DNA, others contribute very little, some contribute none at all to a particular descendant. This is why DNA and genealogy do not always align in the ways people expect. Every person has thousands of ancestors within only a few hundred years. However, we do not inherit DNA from every ancestor in our family tree. A genealogical ancestor is someone from whom you descend. A genetic ancestor is someone from whom you inherited detectable DNA. As generations pass, the number of genealogical ancestors grows rapidly, while the number of detectable genetic contributors becomes smaller. This distinction is critical when discussing native ancestry. Autosomal DNA is an extraordinary tool. It helps identify relatives, verify family lines, and support genealogical research. However, it has limitations. Autosomal DNA becomes increasingly diluted with each generation. Most reliable autosomal connections occur within the last several hundred years. The farther back we go, the more difficult it becomes to detect specific ancestral contributions. This is especially important when evaluating stories involving ancestors from the 18th century or earlier. Many people focus intensely on very small ethnicity percentages. These tiny estimates can be meaningful. They can also be statistical noise. Population overlap creates challenges for every testing company. Some populations share ancient genetic similarities. As a result, very small percentages should be interpreted cautiously and always within a broader genealogical context. One of the most important lessons in genealogy is that DNA does not define identity. Identity includes culture, family history, community, traditions, and lived experience. DNA can provide evidence about ancestry. It cannot fully explain how individuals or communities understand themselves. This distinction becomes especially important when discussing indigenous identity. Many people mistakenly believe DNA testing determines tribal citizenship. It does not. Tribal nations are sovereign governments. Each tribe establishes its own membership requirements. Those requirements may involve documented descent, community ties, historical roles, residency requirements, or other criteria. DNA testing may sometimes support genealogical research, but tribal citizenship is a political and legal matter determined by tribal nations themselves. The strongest genealogical conclusions emerge when multiple forms of evidence work together. Records provide documentation. DNA provides biological evidence. Family stories provide historical clues and context. None of these sources is perfect by itself, but together they often create a much clearer picture of the past. Responsible genealogy requires evaluating all available evidence. Family stories are not automatically true. DNA results are not automatically definitive. Historical records are not automatically correct. Every source has strengths and weaknesses. The best genealogists remain open-minded, skeptical, and evidence-driven. Our goal is not to confirm what we hope is true. Our goal is to discover what the evidence supports. Throughout this series, we have explored family stories, frontier history, census classifications, DNA evidence, and native ancestry traditions. What emerges is a picture far more complicated than many people expect. Some family stories contain remarkable truths. Others contain misunderstandings that developed over generations. The only way to separate myth from history is through careful research, responsible analysis, and a willingness to follow the evidence wherever it leads. Genealogy is not about proving a family legend. It is not about winning an argument. It is not about validating assumptions. Genealogy is about understanding the lives of real people who came before us. Their stories were often complicated. Their identities were often fluid. Their experiences rarely fit neatly into modern categories. The more we learn, the more we appreciate the complexity of the human story. Thank you for joining me for Part 4 of the hidden history of Native American ancestry claims in Appalachia. I hope this series has provided valuable insight into the intersection of genealogy, history, DNA, family stories, and native ancestry research. If you enjoyed this presentation, please like, subscribe, share, and follow. And remember, family stories deserve investigation. Records deserve analysis. DNA deserves proper interpretation. The truth is often found where all three meet.